The Great Inversion, from greed to contribution. The Great Inversion is finally upon us. Get out while you still can. When the wealthiest top 0.00001% quietly unload their bags onto the 99.99% of retail sheep, what we witness is not a fair market, it's a transfer. And that transfer always marks the top. Over the last week alone, 198 of the top 200 insider trades were sells. In just 2 weeks, 398 of 400 insider transactions were dumping, not buying. The last time we saw insider dumping on this historic scale was in the late 1920s, just before the Great Depression. Today, the same warning signs are flashing. Unemployment is rising worldwide, inflation is creeping back, and the pressure is building exactly as it did a century ago. The damage ahead will not be mild. Stocks and crypto will be the hardest hit, with losses that could strip 80 to 90% of their value. But while legacy markets show their hollow core, a new force is emerging. The collapse of greed-based systems is not just an economic accident, it is being deliberately exposed. Consider the Trump administration's actions. Raids on illegal labor revealed that much of corporate profit was built on exploitation, not skill. Tariff pressure exposed how global corporations and trade partners quietly drained U.S. sovereignty into debt. Drug crackdowns targeted shadow markets that created massive social costs. All of these measures collectively carried a single message: greed is not skill, and tricks are not power. What we have called profit for decades was often nothing more than manipulation, outsourcing, and exploitation. And yet, in stark contrast, a movement was quietly building. For more than 6 years, pioneers worked without profit, without capital, and without recognition. They mined, validated, and secured a global digital network purely through contribution. They built infrastructure, nodes, KYC, apps, DAO-driven enterprises, without chasing margins or dividends. They created everyday utility in the form of payments, services, and innovations, sustained by nothing more than commitment and shared belief. While legacy corporations would collapse instantly without capital and profit, pioneers proved that a world-scale system could be built entirely from unpaid contribution. This is their moral authority, their legitimacy, and their proof of concept for the future economy. The upcoming Grand Open Mainnet of Pi is not just a technical launch. It has been deliberately elevated into a historic stage. On this stage, the contrast will be unmistakable. Legacy actors, unmasked by greed and shamed by exposure, stand discredited. Pioneers, having given without pay for years, are celebrated and legitimized. The launch becomes more than a tech event, it becomes a symbolic declaration of a new world order. A new economy where contribution and utility replace profit and margin as the true sources of power. This is no longer a matter of choice for legacy actors. They are confronted with a historical compulsion. Without profit, they are powerless. Yet pioneers have already achieved the impossible without profit. Therefore, survival for legacy institutions now depends on their ability to integrate into the contributory system. It is not a polite suggestion. It is a forced adaptation, dictated by history itself. The conclusion is undeniable. We are living through the transition from greed to contribution. Trump's strategy is not only to expose the hollow nature of legacy power, but to dramatize the legitimacy of the pie economy. The Great Inversion is not only about collapsing markets, it is about a symbolic shift in what defines value. Legacy greed is unmasked. Contribution is legitimized. The economy of the future will not be defined by profit margins, but by contribution, utility, and service to the whole. Profit is no longer skill. Contribution and utility are the new power. And the pioneers of Pi have already proven the model. The Great Inversion has arrived.